All right, welcome back, everybody, to the 42 Days of Magical Practice. We're on day 23, and we're going to take a deeper dive into the topic of focus.
Yeah,
Hope it went well for you the other day, by the way.
A little bit different aspect.
Yeah.
You know, not so broad.
Not so broad. Yeah, we'll try to keep it a little bit shorter today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about focus and how it works and how not to screw it up.
The only way you could screw it up is to not do it.
Right.
So, I mean,
I think one of the things that we really wanted to touch on today was, not getting too tense while you're doing it.
Right. I mean, again, we have to have some litmus test of, besides, am I able to hold that? I mean, how do I increase it? Because the exercise is so simple.
Right.
There aren't a lot of moving parts there, right? So it's, so to speak. So the idea is that, what do I use as my test? How do I gauge if I can't, or if I'm not able to focus on it for the length of time that I want, what do I look at as parameters for how to change that? What aspects do I change in myself in order to achieve that goal in more efficiently and increase it over time, right? Because that's the idea. We want to be able to increase it and be able to really, with laser-like focus, hold that for an extended period of time. And extended doesn't mean for days, right? Extended means for several minutes or longer, right? But it's all relative to what you're doing. So what areas? And I think the best way to come at this is to really tie in the energy of understanding your thoughts of what you're trying to do and what the end result is that you're trying to achieve, and how does that energy move and where does it move to? So, energy in motion is your emotions, right? So, and emotions, they're sort of a transitory type of situation as well, right? So when they somatize in the body, we call them feelings, right? So the body feels, the emotions. So from a mental state to a physical state. So when I feel a certain amount of tension in my body or in a certain location in my body, usually it's a good indicator that I'm losing my focus, right? Because now it's drawn my attention from whatever I'm doing to that sensation, right? It's a good indicator. We can use it sort of, as a feedback loop, looking at it back and forth. So a lot of times when I'm doing focus exercises, if I'm starting to wane or I'm starting to lose focus, the very first thing that I'm doing is just really quickly, this isn't a long-term thing, right? I'm just quickly checking, do I feel some discomfort or tension in my body somewhere? And a lot of times you'll find that there is, either your stomach feels a little tight, maybe your back isn't as straight as it should be, or it feels tense, you're holding at an odd angle. It can be really small things, right? Like my hand position may just be feeling a little out of whack, like one shoulder's not at the right level, or it can be such small things that will throw that off. So I'm just adjusting that. I'm using it as an indicator. Again, not judging, I'm just using it as an indicator. And then I'm going back and trying it again. Once I relax that area, bring that back to neutrality, then I usually find that my ability to focus goes up. Now, there's a difference between that and just outright fatigue, right? So, because it takes a lot of energy to do this, as simple as it seems, it takes a lot of mental energy to do that. So you will get fatigued if you do it for too long. So, we want to make sure that you're not bringing on a headache. And, again, usually we'll find, don't forget, your head actually has sensation too. So it's not like the stomach's always going to be clenched, right? You could see people, focusing as they focus, or there's like everything's kind of tightening up and tensing in that area. Guaranteed after a while that's going to bring on a headache. or eye strain or whatever it is. So you want to be aware of those things. It sounds simple, but it it really is very basic like that. Again, I'm always checking, and again, it sort of goes to our primary purpose with focus, that we're trying to equate relaxation with focus. So the better I relax, the better I focus. It becomes, the more I relax, the more honed my focus becomes. And so I can get both the broad view and the laser-like focus on what I'm doing. So again, the first thing, if my focus starts to waver, I'm checking in just to see bodily, is there some place that's tense or not aligned properly or whatever that is. At a certain point, you will be able to have that focus whether you're sitting, standing, lying down. You should be able to do it in many different positions, basically. So it doesn't really matter. But in the beginning,
what's like
back straight.
So just for inspiration, what is the experience of like the pinnacle of this exercise? Like for, like a master or whatever, what is their experience of doing a simple focus exercise like this?
To be able to hold it as if we're doing a visual focus.
Yes.
Right? If we're doing with this exercise.
Perfectly with this 3-7-9 exercise.
Sure. You're able to hold it with enough visual acuity that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the card and what's mentally in your mind.
You have your eyes closed, and the image of the card that's in your mind is exactly the same as if you had your eyes open.
Exactly. With that much clarity, with that, the sharp edges, all of that, as if you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. This is at the perfection level, right? It's like you're the pinnacle, it's like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two. Eyes open and eyes closed, it looks exactly the same.
And beyond that, is there, they wouldn't have any stray thoughts or anything like that?
If you had stray thoughts, you wouldn't be able to get to that place.
I see.
All of those distractions would keep you from getting to that level.
So stray thoughts, mental chatter, all that kind of stuff, literally there's a direct relationship between stray thoughts and clarity of focus with an object in your mind.
Yeah, because
they go at the same.
Think of it this way.
One goes up, the other goes down. One goes up, the other goes down.
I like this analogy the best. And it came to me after talking with a friend who is an electrician. And, I don't have electrician training, so, yeah, but man. it made good sense to me. And so, even if I have, the gauge of the cable or wire that you're using, the resistance within that is called impedance. And so when that happens, basically if I want less impedance or more energetic flow through that, this case electricity, yes, then I'm going to use a bigger and bigger cable, right? So it's not like the cable that's in your hairdryer is going, not your hairdryer, but a hairdryer,
a hypothetical
hairdryer is not going to be the same cable as that comes out of a hydroelectric plant, right?
Right.
So because it's generating a lot more electricity, so it's got to be fed in, and then slowly but slowly it breaks it down into a smaller and smaller cable that is just enough to utilize without enough resistance to make it not work, whatever the end result is, right? So basically, but there's another aspect of that. Like you can have a huge cable or just the actual wires that are carrying the signal through, right? And it has, there's capacity to push that through, but depending on how much shielding is on the outside of the cable, right? Because the shielding isn't just to keep you from getting shocked, right? The shielding is to keep stray energy or signals coming into that cable and causing static or dissidence within that energetic flow, within that electrical flow. So think of speaker cables. When there were those tiny little cables that you just plugged in and that was it, right? You your speakers would have a certain amount of sound, but there was always this grittiness, or if you turned them up too loud, they would start to break up. And that's not just the amount of impedance that's in there or lack of flow going from one to the other, but it's also that the cable was so thin, the shielding was so thin, that stray signals from whatever other electronics were in the room are impacting it from the outside and making that dissonance. So that's coming through, and the speaker's picking that up, and that dissonance is being displayed through an audio signal through your speaker, right?
Right.
So, so it's not just about how large the capacity is, but how well it's shielded from the outside. So we can think of it the same way. Yes, I may be able to hold a number and keep my focus in that territory, but it's not just how much energy and how well I can focus on it. Part of that focus is how well am I shielded from outside dissonance, so stray thoughts and all of those things, right? Because there is an idea that it's not just all internal, like our brain is a transmitter and receiver, and on that receiving end, that part of it is hooked in, how, we're not really sure, but hooked into sort of the collaborative, everybody else's stray thoughts and everything else that's going on out there. And so part of that is sort of seeping in. And if you don't sort of build up that shielding for it, which is probably the, part of the other side of the meditation, right, is being able to relax and let thoughts go until you get to that place of no mind, then again, your ability to be able to focus on that, no matter how much energy you have to throw on it, is going to be limited to some degree, because you're not going to be able to, if it was just a bare wire, no matter how big it is, you're still going to be impacted with these other signals coming in and affecting it. Being able to make a spectacularly clear image there to be able to focus on that. So it's those two aspects, and that's why, focus and relaxation. And in a way, focus is just what are you focusing on, right? Even the relaxation is a type of focus. We're just focusing on the space rather than on the object or the thing that we're trying to hold in place, right? We're trying to fix it with our focus. By focusing on it, we fix that in time and space. But in the place of no mind or pure potential, basically it's just that open space where we have access to anything and all things. That's it. So again, and that's the epitome of that
right. But
focus.
So you're saying to get to that place,
you have to work on both sides. That's it. One won't do it. One side of the coin won't do it.
What's a good physical analogy for that, of using, your strength of focus being the thing that brings you to that place of pure emptiness or pure potential?
Sure. I mean, so focus, being focused on the no thoughts or the empty mind.
Yeah.
I think the focus part of it is doing it regularly, being disciplined, focused enough to see the value in it and experiencing that and being able to bring yourself to that point and making it of such high value that there's nothing that will dissuade you or distract you from going there on a regular basis and making it better.
And when you have that clarity of focus, when you can picture, a number 3 on a 3x5 card just as well as you can see it physically, what does that feel like?
You tell me. What's it feel like to you, Dustin?
You tell me.
I think the glimpses that we get of that, and for me, that would be, glimpses. And again, keeping track of time is very difficult in those states, right? Because you sort of move out of that place of linear time. So I mean, I can't honestly tell you that it would be, the moments that happen, are they extended? They feel extended, but they may be, a second. They may be less than a second. I'm not sure. When I would come back to whatever, this or, the normal, whatever you want to call this, the normal waking dream, right?
Yeah.
So when you come back to this, I mean, time may have elapsed significantly, or it may be a very, very short period. Sometimes you pop into it and it's 10 minutes later, and sometimes you come back and it's an hour.
And even when you're doing a focus exercise like that, you feel like there's a going to and a coming out of.
It seems that way.
Because the focus is so deep.
Right.
Everything else seems to drop away.
Exactly. And so I think in that, I can't really, the only way I can say it is that regardless of linear time, the time when you're in that state seems limitless. Like once I realize I'm there, again, all relative speech, right? So once I'm in that place in my mind,
where the card is as real as it would be physically.
Right. Then there is no time in that place. Like I decide to come back. It's not like I can't hold it any longer and I'm falling out of it or whatever. It's not a distracted thing. It's like once you have that, it's easy to stay in that place. But it always seems to be the same. It's a timeless space. And then you just have a decision to come back, and you come back. But the linear time that's elapsed can be anything.
So when you do this exercise, good to set a timer. Would you hear the timer if you were deep enough?
Hard to say at this point. I mean, I'll exercising and moving into that more and more. I mean, obviously, you hear the timer go off.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes you're glad because it's just exhausting and you're just beating your head off the wall. It feels like that. And sometimes it's, like, oh, I was almost there. And you're pissed because the timer went off.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of times when you've lost track of time where it's like when the timer goes off, you're convinced that it's something's malfunctioned with your timer. Like only a minute's gone by.
Right.
But it really is a half an hour later,
right.
or 20 minutes, or whatever it is that you're doing.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite.
Right. It's only been like 30 minutes or 2 minutes, but it seems like 20 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, those are all encouraging places. Those are all encouraging events because it tells you that you're really sort of skirting the boundaries. Again, like we talked before about, brainwave states and all of that, you're really like dipping into that theta for longer periods or shorter periods, but it's so clear and so deep that
and
it's that timelessness.
And certain parts of the brain are coming online and certain ones are getting tamped down or going offline completely.
Exactly. So the frontal areas and sometimes the parietal, it just drops offline, but it's almost like what they've found recently is that many times it's the speed at which they drop off is more of an indicator how deep how profound the depth of your focus is, or the depth of your experience, let's say, is there's more correlation with how quickly those things sort of cut down rather than this just slow sort of relaxing away and pruning away, the sensation in those areas.
Right.
It seems like if they sort of like pushing you off the cliff, if it's the quicker that dive happens, the more profound the experience.
A little tough to describe.
It is tough to describe.
But also, I think important to keep in mind that the correlation that's important there is, again, degree of focus, because it's that intensity of focus that allows for a quicker deepening of state.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're bringing. I'm sure I'm going to mess this up a little bit, but basically, from the scientific studies that have been out there, again, when we focus or concentrate, the frontal lobe comes online really strongly because everything's precise and you're really trying to keep all those things in tune. Executive function goes way up and you're really, really on task. And then, so you're really efficient too, but there's a lot of energy that's going into keeping that focus clean. And then other things start to sort of wane. And then as they do, the you start to lose this idea of that and you. And so, but there's a certain tipping point where when you can't distinguish very well between that and your brain stays in that state for a few seconds or whatever, that all of a sudden the frontal area just shuts down and it sort of propels you into other areas of the brain, deeper areas of the brain that sort of completely skew your idea of difference between yourself and other. And
even in this case where the exercise is this card with a number 3 on it, you're still having that experience of emerging between that arbitrary number on a page that you're focused on and your perception of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of valuable just a number of things that come up with this that make it an excellent exercise for such a simple exercise. I mean, simple, not easy, but it's there's so much value that you can get from doing this on a fairly regular basis.
And it's pretty easy to make the correlation between being able to, I mean, if you can feel that experience of, you know, let's say unity or whatever, with that arbitrary image on the card, then, you know, how much more so with imagining, you know, the thing that you want or the thing that you're creating.
Right. It becomes much more real to you, and you know, there isn't a space or a distance between where you are right now and where you want to be.
Right.
So, you know, engaged in that life. So it's really just the distance we have in our minds. It's something that it's something that we're holding that at distance. All of these exercises tend to take that off more and more, you know, tend to show you that the distance isn't as far as you think. It's only you that's holding it at arm's length. It's only you that's saying this is in the future or this is whatever. You know, it's like when you have that experience of it's now, just choose it. We can all get there intellectually, but to actually have the experience of it. And that's what this is all about, is the experience. We want people to have the experience. I mean, you can read all of this stuff. I almost said a bad word. So, you know, in 100, 500, 1,000 books, it's been rewritten over and over again.
Right.
But those are just academic ideas, you know. You know, the thing with us is that we want people to have the experience, an experiential knowledge of what's going on, right? You need some information to get started. Here's where we're starting off. Here's this side of the beach, and we're getting to that side. But your experience when you're in the water and swimming there or walking there or whatever you're doing is your own, you know, but you need a place to start, and that's it. But your experience will be your own. That's the most valuable thing. You know, here's how to do it. Do it and have your experience, and then come back and reevaluate, and then adjust and do it again, and keep going for those experiences, and they're going to bring you to the place that you want to be. And when you get those little glimpses, you're glomming onto them and making them more expanded, and it gives you the impetus to do more, and it gives you the impetus to do it more often, and you know, to increase your ability. And it's all in just a manner of getting to where you want to be, getting to what you want. That's it. Creating what you want, knowing that you're already in that place. Again, it's been said so many times, it's easy to sort of, you know, just grab onto that idea and spout it out, but how many people experience it? You know, that's the thing. And I would rather have people have the experience of it. And once you truly have that experience of it, you're not going to need to push yourself to do these exercises. It's just going to be a matter of course. That's it. You're going to want to. Like anything that we like, we're going to want to do it.
Right.
Nobody's pushing us to do that.
Right.
So, you know, pick anything that you really, really like. Nobody's pushing anybody to do that. You just want to do it. So that's the same with this. You want to get to that point. And I think the experience is what drives that. You know, your own experiential knowledge drives that, not how fancy or how occult or esoteric or weird or, how, out there it is. It's really just, do you like it in your experience? Is it does it have that deep visceral sensation for you? Are you feeling it when you're there? Do you have this expansion of mind and of body, of emotion that's just all encompassing? It's crushing sometimes how not just blissful, it's more than that. It's not just you're not just content. It's like this expansion into everything. And when you have that sensation, you'll do just about anything to, sort of encounter that again and bring it into your life. If that's really what you want, if that's what your want will bring you, is that feeling on a regular day-to-day basis, then why would you put your effort into anything else? Doesn't make any sense. So that's why choosing what you want and why you want it is so important in the beginning, and then reaffirming that on a regular basis, and why the exercises, especially on the focus end of things, are is so important, because it just drives you deeper into being able to really create a specific thing, to take it from a waveform and create it into a particle, right? To take it from a thought or a potential and manifest it physically. You need to be able to sort of go through those bridge techniques to get it from one place to another. That's all it is in the end. So, but it's through your experience that will verify that for you.
Right.
And give you all the encouragement you need along the way. Your experiences will encourage you. Yeah. So, that's it. That's all there is.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all there is. Just do it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we'll go from there, right?
Definitely.
All right.
All right. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I do.
I love
listening to this guy.
We have at least a very enthusiastic audience of 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, super excited.
Maybe 4.
I'm ready.
If it's my wife on a good day.
Yeah.
But I haven't done too many things to really mess up the work. So
cool.
Yeah, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, and enjoy, and we will see you guys tomorrow.